Welcome to Down to Dunk. I'm your host, Andrew Schlecht. We're part of the Athletic Podcast Network. With me, as always, on Wednesdays, technically Wednesday, is my good friend Alex Spears. Alex, what's up?
What's up, Andrew? Game one. Won the game.
Golly, they won
What
the
a game it
game.
was.
117-95 in a game that I just feel like Shea controlled that game, man. He was so good. 29, 9-9. 8 of 19 from the field, 11 of 13 from the free throw line. He hit 2 threes. I just thought Shea was the best player in this game, and he just controlled it. Really, he had kind of a rocky start, but I thought he controlled it from about like mid first quarter on.
Yeah. I tweeted out that whistle, at least in the first half, felt like pre-All-Star break. I mean, by halftime, I think that Chet, Dort, Lively, PJ Washington, Gafford, and Josh Green all had at least 2 fouls.
Yeah.
There were just fouls everywhere, and I really felt like Shea recognized that and was taking advantage of it. Like he was being aggressive and getting to the line. And it is funny looking back now because it felt like, man, they're getting a great whistle tonight. They're taking advantage. This is awesome. By the end of the game, the fact they only took 3 more free throws than the Mavs, and that SGA only took 3 more free throws than Luka. Like by the end of the game, the box score was kind of looked a little bit more balanced than that game felt in the moment, you know?
Yeah, that's the thing. I think that a lot of Mavs fans are going to leave that game feeling upset about how things went. And that like the Thunder were grifting for fouls, and like the refs, just for, falling victim to this crowd in Oklahoma City. And then like you look at it and it's like the Thunder had 18 fouls, the Mavs had 21. Like, it's not like that crazy of a disparity. And the Thunder were the aggressor. Luka took 2 shots at the rim. And I don't know how many drives he had, but it wasn't that many. And so, like, the Thunder were the aggressors, and it wasn't just Shea that was driving a lot. Dub drove a ton. I thought Giddey, when he was in the game, was trying to drive. Dort had several drives in this game. One in particular was very bad, but then he had like one where he got fouled at the rim. Wiggins was driving. I mean, the Thunder were the aggressor, and like you should be rewarded for being the aggressor like the Thunder were.
Yeah. On the other hand, like, I don't think we can count on that type of a whistle the rest of the series. Like, it is entirely possible that they come out in game 2 if there's like a different crew, and all of a sudden they're just like letting them play.
Yeah.
I that wouldn't shock me. So I'm happy that we got that whistle, and I'm happy that OKC took advantage of it. But I am interested to see how it changes, because you compared that game, how it was called, to like Denver, Minnesota, like some of those clips that people are showing of Minnesota's defense. I mean, they would have been called for those fouls if they were playing in OKC tonight. So I'm hopeful that because I actually do think that type of a whistle is advantageous to OKC, both because Shea is gets to the line a ton, but like you said, they just have a ton of guys who drive. I mean, that's what the entire offense is based around, and I think that really benefits them. And how easy it was for them to get all of the Mavericks big men into foul trouble early.
Yeah.
Like, I think if you do get that whistle again, that is going to be replicable. Like, I think that could happen again. And part of that was just like stupid fouls, like that PJ Washington's 3rd foul when I can't remember. I think it was Kaysen. It was like on a transition play, and he just dove head first into Kaysen.
It was brutal and also just so strange. It was like, what are you doing? Like, why are you doing that?
Yeah, that was like a stupid foul. The rest of them are kind of fouls that we've kind of gotten used to Shea picking up. I will say, like, I was pretty impressed with Dallas and their rim protection. Like that was a lot more real than I was maybe expecting it to be. Like, I was pretty impressed with Gafford, and they really did their job when it came to shutting down the paint. I mean, obviously they gave up those free throws, but I was looking at cleaning the glass. Like, OKC shot, I think, like 54% at the rim. Let me see. I'll get you the exact number, Andrew. They shot 53.6% at the
53.6%.
rim.
Yeah.
And they shot 26.7% in the non rim paint.
Yeah.
So they did really good there.
Mm-hmm.
The trade-off is that you're going to give up some threes, and
Mm-hmm.
man, finally we get like just a classic OKC hitting their threes game.
Yeah.
Because we had some games in the first round, and I'm sure we'll have some in the second round too, where it's like despite them being the best shooting team, they'll randomly have these games where they shoot 30% from three. And those games are miserable to watch. But yeah, that run in the third quarter where you had the back-to-back threes, that was just so cool because it was four different guys. It was Joe, Dort, Chet, and then SGA, I think, hit the final one. That was just so awesome because we didn't even mention it, but going back to the beginning of the game, kind of a surprise. They start with Luka on Giddey.
Mm-hmm.
And I was listening to the Mavs Moneyball podcast after the game, and they were hypothesizing, maybe they did that because they were trying to keep Luka out of as many screens as they could, which is possible. Like if he does have a bulky knee, you probably don't want him getting run into. And I was looking it up. Lou Dort, who is kind of the other name that you would think, oh, maybe you could stick Luka on Dort. Dort is third in screen assists on this team, behind only Chet and Jay Will. And so maybe that was the reason they started off. I was surprised, though, just because I thought it was so obvious. They had done it before in terms of just sticking Gafford on Giddey. They do it in that third quarter, and man, it was just like an instant elixir for them.
Yeah.
Like they were just like everything started to fall into place for the Mavs. Their offense was starting to click as well. And so that does get me a little scared about game two. But then he subs out Giddey for Joe, and it was just like immediately everything on the reverse just kind of fell into place for OKC.
Yeah, I think that this just may not be a Giddey series. I just don't. And Josh may come back and like be great in game two, but I think that there's a chance where you do go more to Case and Wallace, or you do go more to Joe or to Wiggins. Like I think you have three really great options there to go to. And I think all three of those guys, you can make the case that all three should have played more and could have played more tonight.
I think the struggle for Josh is like, where does he get an advantage against this team? Like maybe you could say Kyrie because he's bigger than him. But, he had that drive against Derrick Jones Jr., and you could see it the whole way. Like, Derrick Jones Jr. is super long. He's going to block this shot, Josh. Do not take it. And he blocked it. And then, unlike the first round, where if he does have a drive, you're driving against Jonas Valanciunas, who you feel like, okay, this isn't like the greatest rim protector in the world. The Pelicans as a team haven't really been good at rim defense. On the flip side, like you're driving into Daniel Gafford or Derek Lively, it just feels different for Josh. And so I think they're just the windows for Josh to be successful in this series are just a lot smaller than they were in round one.
Yeah. And he'll get a chance, he'll have a shot in all of these games to make an impact. And if he's not, I just think that you just kind of have to do what Mark did tonight. Like I give Mark a lot of credit. He went back to him a little bit in the second half, but it was he knew that it was going to be, Wiggins and Kaysen and Isaiah Joe, were the guys tonight. And I just think that those guys are just better suited to take advantage of what the Mavs do. And especially on defense, you give them no place to hide some of these guys. I think like that's the play. It's like Luka is so obviously just not right, physically, and you give him nowhere to hide. And if you give him a place to hide, if you give him a guy that is not going to make an impact offensively, that is just like advantage Mavs. But if you play these lineups where like these guys can, shake loose for a three, I think that gave them a ton of trouble, and you saw that tonight. Now the Thunder have to hit those threes in order for it to work, but we're talking about the best three-point shooting team in the NBA this year, and they proved it over the course of 82 games, and they proved it again tonight. And the Mavs didn't have a lot of answers for them especially once J-Dub like finally woke up. Like J-Dub was having like one of his worst offensive games up until the fourth quarter, and then like he went on like a 10-0 run on his own, and it was just like over, you know. And so
that was the
ahead.
scariest part of the game, because they don't do well at the beginning of the third quarter. That's when Mark decides to bring Giddey back in.
Yeah,
at the beginning of that fourth, Shea's not out there. Dub at that point, I don't know if he had hit a shot yet. He may have hit like one shot by that point.
Yeah, he had gotten to the hoop and scored, but yeah, he had not.
And it was the game was kind of teetering around like 8 to 10 point lead, and you're just wondering, man, is this when the Mavs are going to make their run?
Mm-hmm.
And like how long is Mark going to wait to bring SGA back? And then it just ended up not mattering. It just like J-Dub just went crazy, and it was so good to see, because he just looked off. Like he was. It did feel like he was getting to his spots. He was taking shots that he would normally take. He was getting to the rim.
Yeah,
but just nothing was going down.
Yeah, he was so visibly frustrated after that second layup. Like he had that second scoop layup that he has made like 100 of them this year.
Yeah,
and he misses it, and he misses it in the exact same way that he missed the first one. Like he was so visibly frustrated running up and down the court. I thought that was really interesting. And then, but yeah, he was great. He just ignited the crowd during that portion of the game too. Like the crowd was just like completely on fire at that point. That was like a really, really fun part of the game, and just like a fun, part of being in the arena tonight was that particular run by J-Dub, who like the crowd's barking and everyone's just so into it, and the environment's just insane.
You got great seats tonight, Andrew. I saw you on the feed.
I had a ridiculous seat tonight. I'm sitting, just like courtside, like almost mid-court. I've got Jason Kidd like in front of me like the entire game. Like part of me is like, move, Jake, can you move out of the way? I'm trying to see what's going on here. Outrageously blessed to be able to sit there and take in a playoff game. Like part of me is like I feel like I'm an imposter or something. Like what am I doing down here? But it was it was a blast. It was so much fun.
Did you see any celebrities courtside? Were there any? They showed
Trae Young is here. Trae Young is here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's cool. That's about as celebrity as it gets.
Yeah.
But that's pretty good.
That's pretty
considering.
Good. That'd be funny if Trae Young became like the Thunder fan. He was like our Jack Nicholson, just a player from another NBA team, just at all the Thunder games.
So what? I'm kind of done playing for the Hawks. I'm just gonna. He did not wear the T-shirt though. I'm just throwing that out there.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Would not wear the T-shirt, which I don't blame him. That would be kind of weird. It'd be kind of hilarious if he did. Yeah. But
I thought it was interesting how they changed their looks against Luka throughout the game. I think for the most part, when Lou Dort was in there, they just wanted him to match up with him straight up. Mm-hmm. By the way, credit to Lou. Obviously,
God, he's so good.
Regular season Luka right now, but if he was not on my team and I was watching him for another team, what he does on screens would just drive me insane, because he just destroys screeners. He makes them pay every single time. He is somehow able to bang into them as hard as he can while also getting around the screen. And I don't know how many moving screens they called in this game because of Dort. I think it was like 2 or 3 times where he basically caused a turnover just by hitting Daniel Gafford in a very specific way. That would be so annoying if he was not on my team. But he was great overall. And I loved that look way more than sometimes when Dort was off the court, they would double Luka. Yeah. And I just felt like more often than not, that was always going to end up in like a wide open 3 for some Mav.
Mm-hmm.
And they're not an amazing 3-point shooting team. They're kind of middle of the pack in terms of percentage, but they have enough guys on that team that are capable. It's not like he's kicking out to Andre Robertson or something. Yeah. And so, and in fact, it made me think about, I don't know if you listen to LeBron and JJ's podcast. I forget what it's called. Mind the Game.
I don't
know if it was the first or second episode, but they were talking about doubling LeBron, and how like he would just invite that because he knows that he's going to make the right pass. And I
Mm-hmm.
feel the same way about Luka, especially when Luka's shooting like this.
Yeah.
Like, I think the stat is in these playoffs 17 for 73 from 3. 17 for 73.
And he's like, he's totally settling too. Like when you watch him play, he's without a doubt settling for these shots because he's not able to like easily get to that step back and kind of push off that foot. Because that knee is just not right. I mean, it's just not. He's grabbing at it all night. He's like in between, like during timeouts and stuff. He's like fidgeting with it, and he's kind of limping off. You can just tell like he's just not quite there.
And as long as that's the case, like just play him straight up.
I agree.
Because it doesn't feel like he's beating Lou Dort off the dribble enough times where it matters. And, they'll run the pick and roll. A lot of times he was settling for mid-range shots there. I thought OKC overall did a really good job defending the lob. They had a few lobs that they broke up. So, yeah, like as long as he's shooting this poorly from 3, like just even if Lou Dort's not out there, I would just rather them try single coverage.
I thought J-Dub did a good job on him too. Like J-Dub has like the length and the size to guard him too. He doesn't do as good of a job as he's not as annoying as Lou is as a defender, but like he did a fine job sticking with him. And it felt like as the game went on, he was just like less willing to even like snake through screens himself, where it just felt like he was just gonna. I was like, if these threes fall, great. If they don't, like we're losing the game. Sorry, everybody. I'm gonna shoot it. I'm gonna shoot it because I love shooting the basketball, and it just did not work for them. And I think that in game 2 we may see more healthy doses of Kyrie, who I thought was really good tonight. I think that they're gonna have to get PJ Washington more involved offensively, who did not have a very good night. And then I think guys like Gafford and Lively will just probably play better than they did tonight and finish better. There was like 3 moments where it was Hayward, Giddey, and Shea that all met Gafford at the rim, and they all 3 of them stopped him. I don't know that we're gonna get that again. I think that we could have a night where Gafford, hits all of his shots. I think that could be on its way. And so the Thunder are going to have to find, other ways to kind of shut down the Mavs. But for tonight, like they were excellent on both ends and played a very physical game.
I think if you're a Mavs fan, you have to believe that this is the fewest points that both Kyrie and Luka will score this entire series. I mean, the fact that you held Luka to 19 points and Kyrie only scored 20. I mean, that has to be their lowest for this series. I would be shocked if they scored fewer points than that going forward.
Yeah.
So you have to imagine you're going to get better games from them, even with Luka in like a less than 100% version of him. He was still scoring a ton of points against the Clippers.
Yeah.
Like there's still like a really good player there, but yeah, man, they.
But like the Clippers let him get whatever switch he wanted. And the Clippers let him kind of play a more, it was like they play less frantic basketball. It's more deliberate. And there are, you can choose your own defender. And when it's Lou Dort hounding you the whole night, it's a different game. Like Lou Dort changes things. He changes the game. And it makes things so much harder. There are very, very few perimeter defenders that change the game like this. And there are a few coaches that I think allow a defender to do this. I think a lot of coaches believe in switching, especially in the playoffs. I mean, how many games in the playoffs have you watched where at the end of the game, it's, best guy on the team's got the ball. We're going to just give the switch to him. It happens all the time. And like the Thunder are unwilling to let that happen. And Lou is like unwilling to let that happen. And so I think it's unusual. I think it's just an unusual strategy. And it takes it takes just like a crazy maniacal competitor like Lou to make it actually work. Cause I just don't know how many other players are willing to do that. And we did a pod after this game it was not this season, but last season when they played the Clippers, and it was, remember Kawhi trying to get that switch with Lou and Giddey, and he did it like over and over again. And then he ended up getting a shot clock violation at the end of the game because all he cared about was trying to get that switch, because he had like been so programmed as a like end of the game ball handler to just try to get that switch. And like that to me is like, if you want to like define who Lou Dort is as a defender, like that's one of the plays that like sticks out in my mind. And that Lou's been doing this for a long time. I think that he truly is like one of the best perimeter defenders, period. And I think this playoff series, you know, all defensive team is always like a year or two behind of where it should be. I think this playoff run, whether it goes, you know, to the West Conference Finals and beyond, or if it stops in round 2, I don't know what's going to happen. But I think people are going to realize that, like, oh my gosh, Lou Dort should be on the all defensive team. Like, we have made a mistake. And in fact, like, Shea got 2 votes for defensive player of the year, second place votes.
Second place.
And God bless Shea. He's done a great job on the defensive end. He's probably the 4th best defender on this team. I cannot believe that 2 media members voted him second on their ballot. And it's all because of the steals, and it's because of the way he plays. Like he's like perfected his defensive role, but it is not the most important defensive role on this team. And it is Lou Dort. And I think that people are just so slow for everything with OKC, but they've been particularly slow to understand like how valuable Lou is.
Well, I do think part of that is because his value gets magnified in the playoffs. And you know, everything you were just describing, even going back to that Kawhi play, like I feel like we understand it a lot easier with offensive players, the idea of like an 82 game player versus 16 game player. And it's harder to like perfectly describe what that would be in a defender. But I think that is it. Like, I think Lou Dort is like a 16 game defender, you know, and night to night in the regular season, maybe that value won't always be as apparent. You know, sometimes you just don't have the matchups where it really matters as much. But when you're going against Brandon Ingram, when you're going against Luka Doncic, if they make it to the next round, have to play Anthony Edwards, like that is where his value is just magnified, and it is so obvious from tip. And so, yeah, it's been awesome. I mean, we obviously have always praised Lou Dort's defense, but it has been a really long time since we've seen him in this setting. You know, I mean, it's been since the Harden games.
Yeah.
And so,
it's true.
It has been somewhat of maybe not a revelation, but just a reminder like, oh yeah, that's why Mark loves him so much. Like this is why having a player like this is so valuable.
And because he was in foul trouble, but he only played 26 minutes tonight, and also because like the game basically ended with 5 minutes left in the game. But he only played 26 minutes in this one.
Get some rest. He'll be well rested.
He's gonna be very well rested. And I thought some of the foul calls on Lou were particular. There were some that were pretty bad too. You know, if Mavs fans want to complain, like go back and look at some of the fouls that were on Lou. I thought some of them were not great.
Yeah, the tripping one was more just annoying because it's like, I guess he tripped over his foot, but it was like so it was barely touched it. I feel like that's just give it a side out or whatever.
Yeah,
like that's a foul.
Yeah, come on. That was bad. And one of the things that I have really missed from sitting in the seats I'm sitting in now is like, you know, I got to sit in like the second row for like a couple years for every game, and just hearing Mark be so mad at the officials. Just, that's a foul, and he just calls all the officials by their first names. He's screaming at them the whole game. It is just an absolute delight, and it's just one of my favorite things in the world. It's just to hear him just be so mad, on behalf of all of his players. And if you wonder why, like the players aren't complaining enough, it's because Mark is going to battle for them, consistently, and it's awesome to witness.
Now, we should bring up, though, he had a bit of a rough run here with the challenges in the playoffs, Andrew.
He did.
Failed one today.
Yeah. I thought that was kind of a weird one, to be honest. I did not think that was going to be successful.
Yeah.
And it was not. And Joel Lorenzi from the Oklahoman actually asked him about it after the game. And he asked him like if he regretted that one because he had like tried that before against when the Lakers were in town. And it didn't work out. And he looked at Joel and he said, "Regret is no way to go through life, Joel." It's like his first response to him. He didn't really seem to care, but it was, yeah, I mean, I was impressed that he did throw a little curveball at the Mavs when he played Jay, Will, and Chet together.
Yeah.
Just like that short stretch. And I kind of got to catch this because I was sitting close. Derek Lively was coming in the game, and he looked down at the bench, and he said, "He's like, who am I guarding? Who am I guarding?" And they yell back at him, "Chet," and you can see him go, "Okay, Chet." And he gets in the game, and Jay Will stays in the game. He and Chet were checking in at the same time, and so they both go into the game. Jay Will stays in the game, and the possession's about to start. Chet's sitting in the corner. In the left corner, and this is in the first half. So he's sitting in the left corner. Jay Will is like in the paint, and he and Luka at the same time both point out to Chet, and then they look at each other as if like you're the one that's got this guy, and they both look at each other, and they were so confused.
Yeah,
they were so confused as to what they were supposed to do, and they remained confused until Jay Will got pulled off the floor after just like a few seconds. But I thought that was funny. Hey, shout out to Deuce and Mo who are listening to the pod here.
Wow.
Shout out. So shout out to Aaron Wiggins. Love what he brought. Congrats on a nice game 1 win. Thank you, Deuce and Mo. I don't know if it's Deuce or Mo if you're watching it together. I don't know. But thanks so much for listening to the show and for the nice Aaron Wiggins comment. It's a good little transition to Aaron Wiggins, who was amazing tonight. In so many facets.
The whole second half of the pod on Wiggins, he was so good.
I know he was.
I mean, the difference
the Wiggins game
in the offense right before he came in to when he was in there, it was just so different because there was just a lot of because Gordon Hayward got into the game before Wiggins, and during he did, and during that stretch, there was just a lot of, and it wasn't just him. But from everyone, just a lot of like movement without purpose, just kind of moving things around, seeing if you luck into something.
There was a guy that screamed in the crowd that was like not very far behind me. That just screamed so loud, and it was at a quiet point in the game. Just bench Hayward, just so loud. He was just letting him have it, but. Yeah,
and then Wiggins comes in, and it's just like he's moving with purpose, and the plays like he immediately hits a three. You had that awesome J-Dub interior pass to a cutting Wiggins. That was just beautiful. Like he just gets things going. Like he gets things moving on offense, and then defensively he was wreaking havoc too. Like I think he got a couple of turnovers that turned into fast breaks.
Yep.
He was incredible. He was awesome. And there's how many minutes did he play tonight?
23.
23.
It's like 22 and like some odd seconds.
Yeah. That trio, Isaiah Joe, Aaron Wiggins, Cason Wallace.
Yeah. That should be it, right?
That should be it. It should be it.
And Jay Will?
Well, yeah. But I'm just talking about like guards, wings off the bench.
Yeah. I agree. Those guys are legitimately good. Wiggins is legitimately good.
Because
I don't know, when has he not been good? Hey, I'll ask you this trivia question to throw at you. How many times has Aaron Wiggins played 23 minutes or more in a game?
Ever in his life? As a Thunder?
For this season. Sorry. I should. It's late. I should have contextualized
it's pretty low. I'll say 6.
It's a little better than that. It's 9 times.
9. Okay.
But 9 is not a whole lot. Out of 82, not a whole lot.
Yeah,
not
enough. We would say.
Teresa Miller, my good friend in the chat, knows. She knew it. She knew it was 9.
Wow.
Look at that. She knew. Yeah, it's not enough. He's I don't know what other bars he has to clear to become like the 7th guy on this team.
I feel like he's been forcing their hand for years now.
It does feel that way. It does feel that way.
And the big thing, like, leave aside the fact that Gordon Hayward still hasn't scored a point in the playoff, and I really thought that Lindy might get a point in this game and that I could move ahead.
I know. When Lindy was bringing the ball up and then he threw it to Wiggins, I bet there was a little bit of I bet maybe you were about to throw a rock through your TV screen because that was your chance.
I wanted him to pull the second he got across half court, just every single trip down the court. So immediately pulled.
I wouldn't mind it because I love Lindy. I would love to see Lindy have some playoff points. Hey, Oos got some playoff points. You should have bet Oos.
Oos looked amazing in his minutes. I think the G League Finals MVP status is carrying over to the playoffs. Have we ever had a G League Finals MVP play in the NBA playoffs immediately? I don't.
That's a great question.
I'm not going to look it up.
It's a great question.
Care that much, but
I'll bet it has happened.
No.
I'll bet it has happened. Never. Yeah. Wiggs was amazing. He was so good. He deserves to play 25 plus minutes in every game going forward for the rest of his life. I'll say that.
Okay, here are the most recent G League Finals MVPs. Ousmane Dieng, Jaden Springer, Trevlin Queen, Devin Kennedy, Isaiah Hartenstein. Wow. Nick Johnson, Pascal Siakam, Jarnell Stokes, Elliot Williams. The thing I was going to say is that even if Hayward looked like he felt like playing basketball, those 3 guys, Isaiah Joe, Cason Wallace, Aaron Wiggins, they give the Thunder such a clear like youth energy advantage against the Mavs. I mean, the whiplash that the Mavs must be experiencing from going from the Clippers,
literally the oldest Clippers, team in the league. They started PJ Tucker in the last game. They played him.
Fined for that.
They played him in the first and second half.
That was as bad as Jamal Murray throwing that
hot
pack on the court.
Can you? I just can't believe that they played PJ Tucker in that game. A guy that they have just said they shelved him for the whole season. Said like, you're just not even good enough to play for us, and like we can't trade you.
They were doing like the ultimate rest.
Yeah,
you were just getting them perfect for that game,
for just one game where it was like, it was bad. And Russ was really. I mean, there was just like a lot of really bad things about them, and like but like you're right. It had to be some whiplash there. Yeah.
Yeah, and I just feel like those 3 guys coming off the bench just accentuate that difference. Like, they're so active, and so athletic, and just getting up and down the court. And I just don't think, especially in Luka's current state, I just don't think the Mavs can really handle that super well right now. I mean, when you think about what they lost in terms of just like versatility or options with Maxi Kleber being hurt. And now with Luka being in his current state, like their options are getting more and more limited, and they're going to come out with something. Like, they have good players on their team. I'm not predicting a sweep for this one, Andrew.
Yeah, me neither.
But I just feel like there is such a clear. It almost reminds me of those first 3 games of the Western Conference Finals 2016, where there was this team with like really legit superstars having an amazing season, and in those first 3 games it just felt like, oh my gosh, this Thunder team is just like way more athletic, way younger, way faster, and it's showing up in every aspect of the game. And there were moments tonight where it felt like that, where it just felt like these 2 teams are just like in different worlds right now, and Dallas just can't keep up with it. And it didn't sustain for the whole game. I mean, credit to the Mavs. Every time I felt like the Thunder were about to pull away, the Mavs would claw back and terrify me. Like, I was feeling really good once we got to halftime. I forget if they're up 8 or 10. And then starting that third quarter and just see them like chip away at it with just in a few minutes. You're just like, oh man, I guess that I shouldn't have felt as good as I thought.
Yeah,
They are
they got
definitely
it.
a team that can do that.
Oh yeah, they got it down to 1.
Yeah,
With 7:25 left.
it was
It
that
was
Kyrie 3.
Kyrie 3, timeout Thunder. Isaiah Joe comes in for Josh Giddey, and then Isaiah Joe immediately makes a 3. And like that kind of like set the Thunder into a much better place. Then Lou hits a 3. Then, J-Dub has the dunk. There was, and then they just they stretched it back out to 11, like pretty quickly.
Yeah.
After Shea hit like this a step back shot. And then it was like, okay, then the Mavs called their timeout with 4:37 left. And so the Thunder, from that 7:25 mark on, just like stretched the lead back out. And like that, I think that was, obviously that was the closest they got was 1, but the Thunder really took it to them from then on. And then I felt like they waved the white flag really early.
Yeah, which I don't know. I mean, Jason Kidd is 0-5 now in game ones.
Isn't that weird? Yeah, I've seen that stat being passed around. It is such a weird thing.
So maybe he just knew. He was like, all right.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be 1-4.
This is what I always do. And credit the Mavs, like they came back after they got stomped by the Clippers in game 1.
Right.
And then came back and were really good in game 2. And so like I expect like a knockout drag out fight on Thursday night in Oklahoma City. Like I think it's going to be a really, really tough physical game that is going to be much closer than this one was tonight. I'm still a little bit shocked that they beat them 117-95. Like I still feel a little bit shocked that they held this Mavs team that has Luka and Kyrie and like lots of good complementary players to 95 points.
Yeah, I mean, if you're a Mavs fan, I do think there's plenty to like you should definitely not feel like the series is over. I mean, there are so many things that could swing. Like OKC might not shoot 45%, 46% from 3 again in this series.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that may end up being their best shooting game of this series. And we talked about Luka and Kyrie only scoring a combined 39 points, which is just wild. Given how well they've been playing, especially this playoffs. Oh my God, Kyrie had that 1-3. I was texting you guys. It like perfectly dropped into the basket where the basket like came up perfectly back through the rim. Oh my God, it was so pretty.
He's such a good shooter. Even like some of his like mid-range stuff that he hits, it's like it's just it's so smooth. It's just he's so quick. That is like the thing that sticks out like in person. Like if you get to watch him up close, is like, holy smokes. Like his quickness is just on another level from almost anybody I've ever seen. Like it feels like very Iverson-esque, like what he's able to do just from a quickness standpoint. Like he was tremendous. And it's like, I think he's going to, like, they need him to take more shots is what it comes down to. It's like, I think that they need to probably flip-flop the number of shots that he and Luka take. And for the Mavs, like, will Luka allow that? I think is a question.
Well, they were talking on the Mavs Moneyball that they wanted more Luka Kyrie actions. But it brought up the question again of like involving Luka in more screens, especially if like, if they get in a position where like Lou Dort is running into Luka.
Yeah, I don't think you want that.
Yeah, you don't want that. But maybe you could do like Kyrie screening for him. It's tough though, because now that you don't have Maxey, they had to play Tim Hardaway Jr. He played 17 minutes a night. He was not good.
He's not right either. Tim Hardaway, I can't tell you the number of times Tim Hardaway came over trying to stretch his leg out. Like he just he was not right either. Like he's not ready to play in this series. I really just don't think he is.
And so their options are just more and more limited. Like they're going to need a really big series from Josh Green. Like he's going to be really good.
And Shea absolutely cooks Josh Green.
Yeah.
Like he can't guard Shea. He's too short. And he's not quick enough. A couple questions from the chat. Super chats. Philip Enke asks, any concern over J-Dub's foot or Shea's ankle? So Shea said afterwards he knocked knees with Derek Jones Jr. I asked him about it, and he said he's fine. J-Dub actually, he said he busted his shoe, and that was
a Zion thing.
I don't know. It's one of the.
Is that why he ran back to change his shoes?
Yeah, he said he had to change. He said he went through 3 pairs of shoes today.
Wow.
So busted his shoe. He said his ankle's fine, so no concerns there, which was good to hear. And then from I don't know if this is OO. I don't know how you want me to say your name, but I believe it's 2 lowercase O's with a space. Maybe it's eyes or something. I don't know. The comment is OKC in 4 to the Pels. OKC in 4 to the Mavs. OKC in 5 to the Wolves. OKC in 4 for the Celtics. Youngest to ever win the championship and tie the 2016-17 Warriors 16-1 postseason record. Man, you know what? You're riding high, and I get it because, listen, the Thunder haven't lost a basketball game in over a month. They haven't done it. They finished the regular season on a high. They swept the Pelicans. Mark Daigneault is 5-0 as a coach in the playoffs so far. I get it, but I'm telling you, a loss is coming, and it's going to feel like it's going to be the worst pain you felt in a long time. It's going to be the entire fan base is going to go through childbirth, pains whenever the Thunder lose a game. I don't expect that to happen, but that'd be cool. I wouldn't be mad about it. I'll say that. Wouldn't be mad if that was the outcome here.
I do think it's interesting. OO did give the Wolves a win. Give the Wolves a win.
The respect for the Wolves is there. It's a healthy respect. All right, we got a healthy respect for the Wolves. No, not the Celtics. Those guys are frauds. God, the more you think about it, and this is a test. I think Royce Young was the one we used to talk about this. Where close your eyes. Can you imagine Jaylen Brown holding up the NBA trophy? Can you imagine?
No, but I remember us saying that about Reggie Jackson.
Yeah, but Reggie didn't earn that one. He didn't even play for them. He doesn't. No, you don't. No, he didn't. He didn't really earn that one. He's part of the reason why the Nuggets suck right now.
Yeah. Let me see. You're such a hater on Reggie. He didn't play in that playoffs.
He was not a factor. No, he was not.
Bruce Brown, my gosh, Andrew, he played so many minutes.
No,
listen to this. This is in the Western Conference Final against Phoenix. 39 minutes, 38 minutes, 32 minutes, 40 minutes, 38 minutes, 37 minutes.
Wait, what?
That's what it says here.
In the semifinals?
This was the Western Conference Finals against Phoenix. It went to 6. He did not play in the finals. I don't know if he got hurt or what.
Wait, they played the Lakers in the Western Conference Finals.
Oh, sorry.
What are you talking about?
I'm sorry.
Was this 2 years ago?
Yes, he played maybe 15 minutes last year.
Okay. All right. Thank you. I'm I feel I just about
well, that screwed me up because both the Clippers and the Nuggets played the Suns in the Western Conference Finals the last 2 seasons. So I saw a 6-game Phoenix series, and I was like, in the Western Conference Finals. I was like, that must have been last year. But actually, that exact same series happened 2 years ago as well.
Yeah, 2 years ago. Yeah.
But back to your point, could I ever see Jaylen Brown holding up Larry O'Brien trophy?
I just have a hard time believing it, even though I did pick the Celtics to win it all. I still there's just part of me that just doesn't feel right.
What about Cat?
Oh gosh, I mean, definitely not.
It's never going to feel right until it happens.
That's true, but those are definitely guys that it doesn't feel right. Yeah. It certainly doesn't feel right.
Well, other people from other teams are probably saying, just close your eyes. Can you imagine Gordon Hayward holding up the Larry O'Brien trophy. Can you even imagine
that? No. No, I can't. Yeah. Oh, there was a moment during the game where there was a moth on the court flying around.
I saw that.
Luka swatted it out of the air and hits it, but it did not die.
Wow.
So a weak swat there from Luka that did not kill this moth, and it kind of like just was like walking around, and I was checked out of the game. I don't know what plays happened. I don't know what was going on. I was zeroed in on this moth that was on the court. It eventually flew away, but it was on the court for a good 46 seconds.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Because I saw Luka. Well, no one else saw it. And then I saw Luka go like this, just like, and I was like, what was that? What's going on? And I was like asking like Mavs PR sitting on my right side, Joel Lorenzi from the Oklahomans on my left side. What was that? Like no one responded to me. And then I just immediately just engage in like finding what's going on. And it was a moth. So there you go.
I wonder what attracted the moth to Luka.
That's a great question. Usually it's light that attracts people.
Yeah.
Or attracts not people. Attracts moths. It's late. It's 1:46 a.m.
I did want to bring up one more thing.
Yeah.
So early in that game, well, kind of going back to like previewing the series, we were talking about corner threes because OKC gives up the most. Dallas is pretty good at them. Yep. And early in that game, it felt like, oh man, like all of the luck we had in the first round with the Pelicans is now swinging back the other way because I think they started like 3 of 4 from the corners.
Yeah.
One thing I have learned though, Andrew, Dallas gave up the 5th most corner threes per game this season.
Yeah.
And OKC did really well tonight. They were 5 of 11 on corner threes. They took 11 corner threes.
Wow.
Which is very good for OKC. So I'm feeling pretty good.
Were they both 5 of 11 then?
Were they?
I think they were both 5 of 11. Yeah.
Oh, they both did great then.
Well, there we go. Balanced out.
The other thing I wanted to bring up, I tweeted this out, but OKC, their offensive rebounding percentage, so the percentage of their own misses that they grabbed tonight, 36%. Now, the number was 16 offensive rebounds. They've had more offensive rebounds than that, but that percentage, 36%, that is the second best offensive rebounding game they had this season.
Wow.
And more interestingly to me, 3 of their best 9 offensive rebounding games by percentage were against the Mavericks.
Wow.
And one of those was post-trade deadline. It was that April one when Luka was out. But, still had their bigs there.
Still the bigs.
Interesting. Because one thing about the Mavs prior to that trade is they were kind of going under the radar as a bad rebounding team. They were not a good rebounding team this season. But then you get Gafford. They start rebounding a little bit better. PJ Washington probably helps a little bit there too. But I just thought it was interesting because this was one of the best rebounding games we've seen for the Thunder. I mean, they kind of dominated them. They had 52 rebounds to 39 rebounds. When was the last time they dominated a team on the boards like that? And a lot of it was offensive rebounds. I mean, they had 16 to 11 offensive rebounds. And a lot of those, and this is something I noticed in the Pelican series too, is they're just getting so much better at kind of acknowledging, hey, we're probably not going to get this rebound on the first attempt, but just get in there and try to tip it out. And there were so many, I guess you would call them like team rebounds in that game where like Dort had one where he tipped it out and then it just ended up in a Thunder player's hands. And there were so many plays like that. And so I'm starting to feel a little bit more confident about them. And maybe that confidence is going to be specific to the Mavs. I think if they had to play the Wolves, for instance, that's going to be a different story. But I'm feeling like pretty good about their rebounding against this team in particular.
Yeah, they were so hyper competitive in this game. And I think Chet kind of led the way with that. I thought Chet was really good tonight. I thought he was great defending the paint. I thought that he caught a lob. He dunked. He had several dunks. He hit a couple threes. I thought he was tremendous tonight. We talked about J-Dub in the fourth, but like I thought Chet was particularly great and like aggressive, and like his level of competitiveness like showed through tonight in this game, like
he was
on
hyped
many
too.
levels. Oh yeah,
like from the jump.
He was very, very into this game, and it was really he was probably like the most fun guy to watch tonight for me, because he was so engaged and was like not backing down, and like the physical play didn't always work out for him. Like it wasn't always in favor of him, but it didn't stop him. Like his level of competitiveness was just like on full tilt tonight, and I thought he was great. I think that he deserves a lot of credit.
The Mavs shot, I mentioned that OKC shot 53.6% at the rim. The Mavs shot 52.2% at the rim.
Yeah.
And a lot of that was Chet.
Yeah, that feels about right. For game 2, I think they've got to find ways to get PJ Washington more involved. He only took 7 shots tonight. I thought that
part of that was just staying on the court.
Part of it is certainly staying on the court, staying out of foul trouble. He only played 26 minutes tonight. But like even in those 26 minutes, like he just was not very impactful, I didn't think.
I mean, that's how, again, he's been on my fantasy team for 2 years now, Andrew. And I know you think that doesn't matter, but I'm checking his stats every night. And and I would watch games too, just because he was on my team. He has a tendency to just kind of like float through some games.
Yeah.
He's been a lot better. I've been pretty impressed with him on the Mavericks.
I thought so. I think so too.
I still don't know if I would have traded what they gave up for PJ Washington, but he's been better than I thought when they made that trade. Same with Gafford. Like both of those guys have kind of fit around Luke and Kyrie. And I think if, Luka was 100%, maybe this all looks different tonight.
Yeah.
But yeah, he kind of had one of those floating games tonight where you just didn't really notice him, and when you did notice him, a lot of times it wasn't great.
Yeah.
The other thing I want to mention about Chet, though, even though Gafford is big, and Lively's big too, they don't really try to overpower Chet in the way that Jonas did.
Yeah, like neither of them have a back to the basket game.
Yeah, which I think is something that I just wasn't thinking about going into the series, but then watching this game and watching him match up with those bigs specifically. And Gafford had a nice like hook shot over him, but
yeah,
he's not having to deal with that type of physicality. There's other types of physicality in this series. In fact, I thought a really nice play was he got matched up with Derrick Jones Jr. And that's what scares me so much about the cross matching. Because Derrick Jones Jr. can guard Chet. There was a play where like Chet was like trying to push him off of him. He was trying to spin around. It was like either trying to get the basket or maybe I'll shoot a turnaround, and he eventually just passed out because Derrick Jones Jr. is kind of like set up well. He has a very good frame to guard Chet. Really long, strong enough, and that's why if game 2 starts out poorly, like. If we're seeing like 3 giddy threes in the first 5 minutes and he's missing those, and meanwhile Chet's getting guarded by Derrick Jones Jr., I just hope Mark will pull that plug quickly.
Yeah, I don't think he could consistently guard him. I think like in a pinch, I think he can, but I think if it's like possession after possession, I don't think that's favorable to the Mavs.
I think really it's more favorable than having a matchup with like Gafford.
Yeah, I honestly think like the Maxi Kleber, this is where like going back to the Maxi Kleber thing, like I don't think that they have a good way to truly cross match that. I think like they don't have a true answer for it. I don't think Derrick Jones is necessarily like the right answer there, because I don't think he's strong enough to do it, which is kind of a funny thing to say about Chet, but I honestly like don't think he's going to be strong enough to do it.
Well, Andrew, we're going to find out because game 2, that is how they're going to start.
Yeah,
guaranteed.
Yeah, I mean, they have to figure something out. There are times where they want to put their big on Dort or on Giddey because that's like the only it's really their only way.
Yeah,
because and it's all because of Chet. Like the cross matching again is like a product of Chet and how weird it is to guard this team when you have a traditional big, and that's why again like Kleba was so important. Was going to be so important in this series. I think he was going to play a ton. I think we would have seen that look a lot from them because it allows them to play straight up. It allows them to allows the Mavericks to stretch the floor a little bit too, which they need more spacing as well. They're driving into a crowd every single time, and it's because you do have that guy just sitting at the rim, and at times it's helpful, but other times it can kind of clog the paint. And the Thunder are like really good at just like clogging the paint in general, but whenever there is a big just sitting there waiting, it clogs it even more, which just kind of mucks things up. And obviously they didn't shoot well at the rim tonight, and I think that's kind of a product of all of those things kind of mixed together.
So game 2 is on Thursday night.
Yep.
We will know by then if no, we won't. I was going to say we'll know by then if the Wolves are up 3-0, but I guess they're not playing tomorrow.
No, they're not.
That'll be crazy.
We will know who's going to win the MVP.
That is true, and it'll get hyped up as Luka's revenge because he didn't finish second. Who cares?
Are we for sure? Are we for sure that
what
it's going to be Shea second? Are we for sure about that?
I guess we don't, but I'm anticipating that will be what happens.
Yeah. I am too. By the way, I'm just asking if there's like something else
up as like Luka's feels slighted.
Yeah, and that one, like if it was like Shea winning it,
I know that's the thing. It's like who cares? Second, like it's cool, I guess. But do you remember who got second in the MVP every season?
No,
like it's going to be lost to the sands of time, Andrew.
I do remember Paul George getting third in the MVP voting.
Hell yeah, it's a nice thing for fan bases to remember about their guys who didn't win it.
Yeah.
I remember Russ got 5th one year.
He did.
KD got second a couple years.
Yeah, it's true.
And you know what? Doesn't matter. Doesn't really matter.
Doesn't matter at all.
Joakim Noah got 3rd once upon a time. Blake Griffin got 3rd once upon a time.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty cool. I guess I do remember them all. So maybe it does matter.
So matters. It's going to fuel this game. I walked right by Cubes at the game.
Oh, yeah. How's he doing?
He seems to be doing great. I don't know. Just very rich. I don't know.
I'm super hyped for this Denver series because
I
don't want to say it came out of nowhere, but when they lost game 1 in the way they lost it, you were just assuming. And people are sharing all the stats, like when a home team goes down 1-0, here's the crazy stats in game 2, and like the average margin of victory is double digits. And for them to lose in that way in game 2, and that this series might just be over by the time we get to the weekend, that is truly amazing. And I'm kind of retired from my slandering other teams. I do it more in private now.
Yeah,
I got to be honest, man. I'm kind of excited to see the slander for the Nuggets because I just want to see what people come up with. Like it's a type of slander I hadn't even prepared for mentally.
I know.
I wasn't even considering it going into these playoffs, and the fact that it might happen, I'm just interested to see what people say. I won't be partaking, but I will be reading, Andrew. I'll be reading. I'll be sharing in our group text.
I'll be sharing my stats again on some podcasts where like they haven't had a +6 net rating. Like they haven't had the contender status net rating.
I know.
They didn't have it this year. Who did? The Wolves. Who did? The Thunder. Celtics. That's it. And that's it. Like those are the teams that had it.
Yeah.
Not the Mavericks. Just saying.
Yeah. It'll be some pretty entertaining conversations.
This playoffs has been so much fun. Obviously, like with the Thunder involved and everything, it's been great, like for us personally.
Yeah.
But like outside of it, like the Knicks have been outrageously entertaining. The Wolves are really fun to watch. The fact that they're like taking it to the defending champ Nuggets is very, very fun. Like it just feels unpredictable. It feels like we're heading into like this new era of like, oh my gosh, the West is gonna be amazing for a long time. Because like Denver's good. Like we know Denver's good. Like they're not going anywhere. Minnesota's maybe they're not. Maybe they suck.
Maybe they're not.
Minnesota's awesome. I think the Thunder are awesome. I think the Mavs are obviously a very good team. You know, it's gonna be such. And then like you have like Wemby and like what happens with the Spurs over the next few years, and like we are about to enter in such a fun era of basketball, particularly in the Western Conference, that it's just it's gonna be so much fun. And I think like this is just kind of like the tip of the iceberg for like where like this era is going. We're moving out of like the inevitable LeBron. Every single year it's like LeBron this, LeBron that. Like I think we're heading into an era where it's like, oh my gosh, like there are 5 superstars in the West.
Yeah.
I don't know who exactly is going to win the West this year. I think it's going to be so much fun.
And the further OKC goes in these playoffs, just the more it highlights how well they are set up. I mean, we've talked about Minnesota having to make some decisions eventually, but even looking at Denver, like KCP has a player option for next year. Like they could all of a sudden have to sign him to another long-term deal. Jamal Murray's going to be up for an extension. Like all of a sudden they're a second apron team, and that changes everything for them.
It's true.
And they had this, not necessarily a 2 timelines plan, but they did have this plan of like, we're going to trade our future picks with the idea that we're going to collect all these young guys. A few of them are going to pop like Christian Brown, and we're just going to kind of keep on like replenishing our bench going forward. And it did not work this year, or at least it has not worked thus far. And I was watching that game too, just thinking about those Nuggets picks, which at the time we made those trades, it kind of felt like, well, Jokic is still going to be like decently young. He'll, be in his early 30s, whatever. But man, you watch that team and it starts to make you think like all of these windows are so much smaller than we ever think. And we have a top 5 protected pick in 2027 and 2029. and just who knows? It's not like I feel like those are definitely going to be good picks, but watching that game too, I was like, okay, at least there's a possibility.
Yeah, just dream a little bit.
And just getting picks from any team in the future feels like a good bet right now.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
The idea, and we should probably feel this way about OKC because like we don't know how long this window is going to be open, but you compare their setup to all these other teams and it's just so good right now. Like we don't even have to think about any of these questions for like another 2 full seasons when they would eventually have those extensions for Chet and J-Dub kick in. It's just they're in such a sweet spot right now. Eventually, the tax bills will come. They'll eventually have to make tough decisions.
Yeah.
But man, their runway is so much longer than a lot of these other teams who are having to make these decisions like this summer.
Yeah, and like the good news is like, one, the Thunder have been planning for this. Like they know that they're going to be expensive at some point. You have the new TV deal that's coming where there's a bidding war for that, and it's going to be a lot of money. And then like you have the new arena coming, which is going to be another revenue stream for the Thunder. And so
what's the year date for that?
What's the year that we get the number 1 pick from the Nuggets? 2029.
2029. Well, it's top 5 protected, right?
Oh, top 5 protected. It's when we get the 6th pick from the Nuggets.
Thank you.
Yeah. No, I mean, yeah, they're set up in a ridiculous way for sure. Like, and some of these picks are not going to be good, but you just have to believe, whether it's the Sixers or the Nuggets or the Heat or the Clippers or whoever it is, like one of these is going to hit in a in a way that is going to like shake the league for like a few days, where it's like, oh my gosh, the Thunder got the 5th pick, and they just won the title. You know, like there's going to be like something crazy with all of these. Like I think one, they have like too many of them for it not to happen at some point. You know, and the Thunder, dude, they just won a game in round 2. And this is the youngest team. Like I didn't think that they would. I didn't, at the beginning of the season, I certainly didn't think that they would get this far, and I didn't think they would look this good. Where it's like you win this game in round 2, and you look like the better team in game 1, and like this could all change where everything looks different. I expect the Mavericks to bounce back in a big way in game 2, but for the Thunder to look this way, and for like my Thunder in 6 pick to not look insane at this point it's crazy how far they've come in such a short amount of time. Like
I was watching the first round
crazy.
just thinking how the Magic season was basically what I thought the Thunder season was going to be.
Totally.
Like competitive first round series where you don't have home court advantage. You feel good about the team going into the summer, and you have all of these, whether it's picks or ability to make trades or sign free agents, you have flexibility. Like the season the Magic had was what I thought the Thunder season was going to be.
Yeah.
And I would have been happy with that. That would have been perfect.
Oh yeah. Yeah, if you're a Magic fan, like you're feeling great.
Yeah. Great season. Franz needs to learn how to shoot again, but otherwise, great. Did you go? What happened?
Oh. Can you hear me now?
Oh, you're back. Yeah, I can hear you now.
Yeah, all my equipment is dying on me.
Okay, we should wrap it up.
2:06 a.m. Got to get out of here. Thanks so much for listening to our show. Hope you guys are doing well. Please share the show with people. We got tons of people on the stream at 2:07 a.m. I don't know where you're at in the world. I don't know if you're in OKC or where you're at, but please just do me one favor, hit the like button before you click out of the stream, and like make a comment, not in the stream, but on like the actual video. Like make a comment, start a conversation, about whatever you want, about moths. If you want to talk about moths, talk about it there. Hope you guys have an awesome Wednesday, and we'll talk to you guys again. Oh, wait, before we go, I do have one more thing. I forgot. I should have announced this at the beginning of the show, but we are having a watch party on Saturday at Fassler Hall. So game tips at 2:30 Central. So come to Fassler Hall, watch Thunder Mavs game 3 with us on Saturday. So be there, be square. And we'll talk to you guys again on Friday.